Buying this mini truck was the best decision I've ever made. I've wanted one for as long as I can remember, but it's not until you actually get behind the wheel of one of these things that you realise that it's not all plain sailing. I mean, there are a ton of reasons why you should go out and buy one for yourself, but there are probably just as many that might stop you from going out and doing just that. So, since I've had mine for some time now, and I've figured out the majority of good and bad things about owning one of these, I'm going to run you through what it's like living with a Honda Acty. Grab yourself a cuppa, get sat down, and let's get into it. Right, so admittedly, living with an Acty or any other JDM Mini Truck is gonna have its ups and downs. After all, they were designed for the back streets of Tokyo rather than the motorways of Britain, but if you're a lover of all things Japanese like me, then you've got to take the rough with the smooth, and learn how to get around these, let's say, quirks that these vans and pickups have. I've probably missed the odd thing, so feel free to go wild down in the comments and let me know of any extra pros or cons you can think of if you've got one of these trucks. But I'm not going to make you wait any longer, let's start off with the really obvious stuff. It's a pickup, so you're never going to struggle to cram all of your shopping in the boot ever again. Yep, even though it's a K car, which basically means light vehicle over in Japan, which limits its design to certain dimensions, you're never going to struggle transporting anything again. Because, well, you've got a decent sized bed behind the cab for everything to fit on. There is a 350 kilogram weight limitation on what you can carry, although most people see this as just a recommendation, or a target to beat. But you have to remember that every K car is limited to a 660cc engine, so you can't exactly sit 2 ton on the back and expect it to move when an electric screwdriver has more torque. You can't expect to go 70 miles per hour everywhere either, especially in the 𝙁𝘼𝙊𝙆, which is the code name for the 4-wheel drive model, because, well, it can't reach it. That just so happens to be the one that I have, and my Acty tops out at around 66 miles an hour depending on what you've had for your dinner. You can maybe reach 70 if you're going downhill, but because of that limited size engine and the fact that you're about as aerodynamic as a block of flats, it's highly unlikely that you're going to get there. But it might just be my massive wings slowing me down, I don't know. If you try to reach the top speed though, you're going to be drinking fuel. Anything above 50 miles per hour in this thing and the miles per gallon drops off a cliff. Because like I said already, these things were designed to tear up and down the back streets of Tokyo with a bit of tofu on the back, rather than setting land speed records. Not to worry though, it's easy enough to fill up at a petrol station, right? Wrong. Even at the dizzying height of 5'8", I still have to crouch down to reach the fuel tank to fill it up, so every time I'm brimming the tank it looks like I'm taking a dump. Charming, eh? Anyhow, onto the inside. The visibility out of this thing is class. You're basically sat inside a greenhouse, there are no blind spots at all. The van-like front end means you can virtually park within an inch of anything every single time without the need for parking sensors, because when your nose is about to touch the wall, that's when you know you need to stop. The windscreen, if anything, might be too big, because even with the sun visors down, you'll be blinded by the light at any time of day, but sticking a banner across there seems to do the trick. There might be a little problem about sitting so close to the windscreen, and that's if you do have a crash, your knees are essentially the crumple zones. So if I had to give you some advice, it'd be, try not to. Especially since that steering column runs right in between your legs, so you don't want to turn into a human kebab. Because of where that steering column's placed too, it means no left foot braking. I mean, I'm not exactly Ayrton Senna and this thing isn't a McLaren either, but I don't mind dabbling in a bit of that from time to time. Unfortunately though, it's a no-go in the van. You might be able to fit your weekly shop in that bed, but let's say it's chucking it down with rain when you come out of the supermarket and you've got a passenger with you. There is no other storage. Aside from the footwell, the only other place that you can store any gear is on top of the dash and in the glove box, so hopefully you never need to store anything bigger than a birthday card and a Twix. The worst realisation I had though was when I visited McDonald's for my bi-weekly wrap of the day meal. Where's the cup holder? Shit, doesn't have one. I'm not sure if you've tried driving a manual van with no power steering while simultaneously trying to balance an Oasis on top of your head, but let me tell you, it's hard. Once you're on the move, you don't really notice the lack of power steering though, and I have to say that this has literally the best turning circle I think I've seen on any car. Fairly sure I could do a 1-point turn on most roads, to be honest. That combined with the fact that it's 4-wheel drive and so tiny means you can get virtually anywhere with it as well. You do have the option of knocking it into rear-wheel drive to do some mad skids if you want to, but unlike the Suzuki, you have to physically get under the van and play about with a couple of bolts to engage or disengage the prop, which is a bit of a letdown. But I mean, it's not the end of the world, is it? Now, I'm used to having people staring and pointing at me, but since I got this van, it happens for all the right reasons, not just because I'm an ugly bastard. It attracts so much attention, probably because no one's ever seen one before. Every time I'm at a petrol station, a shop, or even just on the driveway, there's always one person wanting to stop and have a chat about it, which I personally think is a good thing. But if you're an antisocial goth who hates chatting to strangers, you might want to stay well away from buying one. And if they don't see you coming, they'll definitely hear you. I forgot to do a sound test in the first video and I almost got crucified for not including one, so here are a couple of clips of the exhaust so you can understand where I'm coming from. I mean, although I think it sounds good, the drone in the cab is absolutely horrendous. And I think I'd wake up half the town if I set off for a car show at 5 AM in the morning without the silencer in. I am pretty glad that I managed to buy one of these already modified though, since parts for these are a nightmare to find, and when you do find them, they cost a small fortune. It's not just modifications either. Basic maintenance items like timing belts and filters all have to be ordered from Japan. So the best thing to do is stock up on parts and make sure you're keeping on top of the preventative maintenance. Unlike the 𝙁𝘼𝙊𝙄𝙉 where you sit on top of the engine, the Honda's is located further back, which makes it a little bit more awkward to work on, but at the same time there's a bit more weight over that rear axle, so the chance of you doing a stoppie at every red light is a little bit less. As with every Japanese car, you might want to get it wax oiled or protected in some way underneath, because although they're generally in really good condition when they're imported out of the country, it only takes a few journeys on salt covered roads for the rust to start taking hold. This is something that I'm going to do and probably make a video on as well, so make sure you click that subscribe button to stick around if you want to see that. But I think that's about it for now though. I was going to complain about not being able to straddle a speed bump until I discovered that it's that narrow it can just go in between them. And because I'm a short ass, I can't reach the top of the roof to clean it, but I mean, the solution to that was easy enough as well. I hope this was useful. It's just a little bit of an insight into what it's like owning one of these things. As I said at the start, if you also own one and you want to add anything else, drop it down in the comments and you never know, I might make a part 2. As always, thanks for watching, drop the video a like if you're a soundie, and yeah, I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!